right, y'all. So let's get into these tiers. This is the first edition of Carl's tiers.
Okay.
Hopefully this is something that we can
build on.
Build on and continue to have, and as well as when football season comes along. But this is a kind of a close to end of the season version of it. So, without further ado.
Yep.
Okay.
So the first category of the tiers is the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. These are all teams that are clearly at this point doing whatever they can to get the Duke Star.
So with the tiers, it's like a pyramid sort of, and they're at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
basically. Okay. Yep. So we have, at this point, the 76ers, the Wizards, Charlotte, which is another point to me. I think when we had the last time we were on, it was before the All-Star.
Yeah.
So we never got to talk about the whole LaMelo being snubbed thing. But to me, if your team is in the hunt for the number 1 overall pick, you're not an all-star. But that's a whole other thing. Brooklyn is also in the sweepstakes. Utah, particularly Utah, because I just feel like that fits their culture. They want another Gordon Hayward. New Orleans, San Antonio at this point in the year, and Toronto. So all those
Philly
teams,
there too?
Yeah, Philly was in there.
Okay.
Philly number 1. So all these teams at this point, their eyes are definitely on next year. They're doing whatever they can to tank, sitting players. Toronto got Brandon Ingram like 2 months ago, and apparently he has the worst sprained ankle in the history of sprained ankles.
And he got the bag that early and hasn't played?
Hasn't even played, bro. Like,
that's nasty.
But honestly, I think that Brandon Ingram trade was some type of ploy to be able to move someone else, because their team as constructed, to me, with R.J. Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Scotty Barnes doesn't really make sense. It just feels like there's a lot happening right there.
Yeah.
But again, we'll see. The next category for the tiers are teams that aren't in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, but probably should be. The first one is Portland. They're not in the sweepstakes because they have like 30-something wins right now. So they're just, of course, there's always a chance that you can end up with number 1 overall pick, but I think that they have too many wins at this point. But I don't know why. They went on a streak recently where they're winning like 8 out of 10 games or something like that.
That shit was crazy, actually.
Yeah, bro. Sit these guys. What are you doing? What are you doing at this point? The Scoot needs to be starting. Give him 40 minutes a game, whatever. Figure that out. Miami, who it's really crazy to look at how their season has got off the rails. But at this point, Tyler Hero doesn't need to be playing. Bam, you could probably sit him because you're losing with them playing already at this point.
And they be losing in clutch time, too. It'd be good back and forth, and they just fold.
Get folded up. Chicago, to me, Chicago and Sacramento are the last 2 teams in this tier, and to me, they're both in the same place of like, I don't know what y'all are doing, what y'all GM is doing. You traded away De'Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine. De'Aaron Fox wasn't enough ever, clearly, so you think Zach LaVine is about to be enough.
They don't have no point guard.
Chicago, okay, you traded away Zach LaVine, but you didn't get rid of Vucevic. So are you actually trying to rebuild, or are you just staying in this weird 30 wins pace where you're not going to get the number 1 overall pick?
They got like 34 guards. Like.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with either of those teams. They're not good enough to do anything at all, but they're not going to be bad enough. So yeah, they should be. The next tier is basketball hell. And that is reserved for the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay.
I think that it's clear that they upset the basketball gods by pulling the stunt that they pulled by trading Luka for Anthony Davis and 1 first-round pick, and then going on to, because on its face everyone knows that it's an insane trade, they decided to go on a smear campaign and try and do everything they could to shit talk Luka and make it look like he's a terrible person, this and that. And all that has happened since then is their current star player has torn his ACL. The guy they traded for has played 2 quarters. All their other guys are getting injured. Their 2 starting centers are both out. They've been out for months. I think they were almost They were close to, like, a week ago having to forfeit games because of so many injuries. To me, at this point, it's not bad luck. You did it to yourself. This is all things that this owner brought on the team. Him and Nico Harrison.
Yep.
The next tier is the best case scenario for these teams is losing in the first round, and that's Phoenix, Orlando, and Atlanta. I think that all three of those teams are going to be lucky to make it into the playoffs. I think because I think they're all going to be playing teams. So if they do make it, the best case for them is to lose in maybe 6 games in the first round. But Orlando's offense stinks. Atlanta, to me, is like without Jalen Johnson and some of these other pieces, I just don't trust Trae Young outside of, he had 1 year where they made it to the conference finals. He doesn't really do much in the playoffs since then. And Phoenix is just abysmal for whatever reason. I can't figure it out, but they're not going to be doing anything unless what it took for KD and Book to average like 30-something on 60% shooting for them to win any playoff games the other year. The next tier is first round upset potential. So here I have Minnesota, the Clippers, and Detroit. All of these teams are going to be on the bottom half of the bracket just with the way the seeding is looking right now. It's possible that Minnesota could potentially creep up, and it's possible Detroit could creep up into that top 4 range, but more than likely these guys are going to be on the bottom half of the bracket. But they're all dangerous. Minnesota, for obvious reasons, you have Anthony Edwards. It seems like they've kind of started to figure things out. Detroit, for a lot of, we were talking about before, I think they're just a surprise team. And to me especially, I know you might disagree, but I think if they get matched up with the Knicks out of those top couple of Eastern teams, that's probably the one team that I could really see them beating. And then the Clippers, Kawhi seems to be a little bit more healthy now. James Harden, Zubac is playing like a really good player all of a sudden. Yeah,
top 5 center.
Norman Powell. So I just think those teams have a chance of upsetting someone in the first round, but I don't see them going too far after that.
Yeah.
Then the next tier is these teams all I feel like have a second round ceiling. So here we have Memphis, Houston, Indy, and New York. Memphis, until I see it with them, I don't think that they're really contenders. Every time they've had a gaudy record, they come into the postseason and don't look the same.
And it's hard to evaluate them too because Ja always hurt in the playoffs.
Either hurt or just doesn't. It's just not the same. I don't know how to he doesn't look as strong in a sense. They just have seemed scared a lot of the times when I've seen them in the playoffs, especially like when they were playing the Lakers and other older teams. So now they are older since the last time we've seen them because they weren't there last year. So hopefully it'll be different, but I just don't really see it. Houston, I know Houston right now I'm pretty sure is the 2 seed, but the top couple of seeds in the West are so close that they could potentially still end up being the 4th or 5th seed or something like that. They're again just kind of the youth thing. I have zero faith in the consistency of Jalen Green.
They don't have a true number 1 option, bro.
Yeah, they have something which is dope is they have a lot of different guys who can go out and get you some points, get you 20 or whatever. But I do think, they don't have that identity of who is the guy yet on that team, and they're still trying to figure that out.
It's going to be that Thompson boy in a couple
I think
years.
so. I think, in a couple years, he's really cold. But right now, I just don't see them making it to the conference finals. I think that, especially by the time they make it to that second round, they're going to be probably playing a better team. And then Indiana and New York. Indiana, they're fast paced. They get a bunch of threes up. Halliburton, so I think they can make it out of the first round, but I don't have any faith in them beyond that. And New York this year has just not been good against good teams. Like all year, they've been really bad against good teams, and the playoffs is usually where a Tom Thibodeau team gets exposed because you've been playing all your players all these minutes all year. And then everyone else starts to do that in the playoffs. So, your advantage is kind of gone. And then also your guys are way more tired because they've been playing all these minutes all year. Which is why I don't know if y'all saw, Bridges came out the other week and was like, yo, can you play us a little bit less, my dog?
I saw that shit.
How did you feel when Tiz was like, he basically was like, the reason why I play you a lot of minutes because it's basically not just the guards league, but you're guarding the top forwards, the top wings in the league. So, basically, you're going to go out when they guard, and when they come in, you're going to stand. How you feel about that?
Yeah, but usually I'll just say this: I'm pretty sure he or someone on that team is leading the league in minutes. So clearly he's playing more than these other top wings and guards and stuff like that. You know, like that's really just what it is. And also at the same time, it's what he said is we have other players on this team that like could potentially show you something if you ever gave them a chance. Like you playing everybody else 10 minutes, you know, where it's like, all right, I can't get into it. Because
everybody say they bench is ass, but are they ass like I'm thinking, or like you said they don't get a chance, so we don't even know.
Yeah, they just don't give guys a chance. You don't. It's really hard to break into one of his rotations, and like I don't think that's always for the better. I think sometimes it's just he knows like, well, I can rely on this guy to play all these minutes.
Because on paper they look good. Like if you had Kenny Atkinson or y'all coach for the Detroit Pistons, that would be a solid squad.
Yeah. So that's them. And we got 3 more tiers. So next we have the quasi contenders. That's Milwaukee, the Lakers, and Denver. I think all 3 of these teams are teams where I'm like, okay, I can see them make it to the finals. I wouldn't bet on that happening. Mm-hmm. They're not the favorites to me, but all of them have the star power and the talent to get there. Then the next tier is somewhere in between. This is Golden State for me. I think they're somewhere in between the second round ceiling and the quasi contenders. Like, I don't really see them in the finals, but I also think that they could make it to the conference finals. Mm-hmm. They're just a really weird team for me to figure out right now because it's so Steph heavy and it's so like.
Would you say that
I would flip the Lakers with the Warriors?
You feel like you could see the Warriors more in the finals than the Lakers?
Actually,
I was gonna say, do you like the Warriors route no matter if they're coming from the play-in or from a 6 seed?
I mean, no, I think that them making it to the conference finals, I think really hinges on them being that 6 seed,
okay,
6th or 5th seed. I don't think them being in the play-in behooves them with their 3 best players being 34 or older.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to make it a lot tougher, and it just start to wear on them, and also just like the days off and stuff like that.
And so then Miami.
You said quasi is they're on the brink, but you wouldn't be surprised if they got to the finals.
Yeah. And
then what was this tier again?
This is just somewhere in between the second round ceiling and the quasi contenders. So like I think that their ceiling, the Warriors could make it past the second round.
Yeah.
But I also don't. I don't think I see them in the finals like at all.
Mm-hmm. And who else is in this tier?
So it's just them.
Okay.
They're the only team I think that is just
because I would
like
flip it. If you said the other ones, you're not surprised me into the finals, and them it's just like I don't know.
What?
Because I feel like the tier with Nuggets and the Lakers, I feel like that should be hierarchy.
That technically is higher up. I only said this afterwards because it's like, okay, I gave you these 2, and now I'm giving you the thing that's in between these 2 because it wouldn't make as much sense.
Okay. Fair. It's making sense. It's making sense.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And then the last tier is the actual contenders, and for me, this is OKC, Boston, and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland is looking real shaky recently. But my only thing is I will say is they're kind of like locked up. They've pretty much locked up the 1 seed. Like
mental
it's possible
fatigue.
for
I was gonna say mental fatigue that they've locked it up.
It's possible for Boston to catch them, but I think they would have to lose like almost all the rest of these games basically. So I think they're gonna keep that 1 seed. They pretty much have that locked up. They've been kind of the most dominant team for sure on the East all year. So I still think I could see them being like a contender. And then, of course, Boston is the reigning champs, the exact same team. Mm-hmm. Their, record is a little bit worse this year, but I think a lot of that is just they were just so dominant. I don't know if they're taking it as seriously. Mm-hmm. And then OKC. OKC has been probably the best team overall all year, the best team in the tougher conference. They have, like, right now the best net rating, I think, ever in NBA history. They clamp you up. Shea's going to get you 30 to 35 every night. Chet wasn't even playing half the year, and they still have a great record. And now that he's back, him and Hartenstein are playing great next to each other.
Yeah, great shooting.
Yeah.
when they open, it's cash.
And I think they know, like, okay, we've spent a couple of years being the little bros, and now we really only have 2 more years of this team for real. Because then a lot of them are going to be up, like Williams and Chet and some of these other guys are going to be up for extension. So I don't know if they're going to be able to keep all these guys together.
Yeah,
so it's like, this is really, okay, you know,
the
we have
window.
the record to show for it.
Yeah, they definitely shored up all the flaws or deficiencies that they had last year. But I like him a lot as well, too. That nigga Shea is in his prime. I mean, he already hit his prime, but, like, he's taking it to another level.
Yeah,
especially when you had injuries throughout the year to still keep that number 1 seed, because Chet missed it with his hip or whatever.
Most of the year,
And now their all-star J-Dub is out right now. They're still doing good, and Hartenstein, like, was injured to start the year, too. So I got to give props to him. My biggest concern is, I mean, they could have easily extended that series against Dallas, but they really, because Shea going to get his regardless, but I want to see, like, is this time off for Jalen Williams, like, is that going to take away from him? And, like, can you rely on him to be that legit number 2 option? Because if he can be that number 2 option or at least play that all-star level, no doubt in my mind they're going to be representing the West and playing Boston if everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern. I still think Chet's up and down, but if J-Dub plays well, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Yeah, no, that's what you need is that second guy who was like, okay, I can actually, because he played okay last year. He just didn't play well enough. He didn't play up to the level that you need your number 2 guy to play at. You know? But yeah, so those are the first edition of the tiers.
Okay.
Do y'all have any teams that you think should have been on different tiers, or how do we do?
I was pretty satisfied with the tiers, honestly. Especially the very top tier. If I had to put another team up there with them, just because it's like I love OKC a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got to the conference finals and lost. So I would just,
to who?
Nuggets, the
Oh
Denver
my
Nuggets.
god, nah, bro.
Something about Joker, man.
I mean, that's
Gotta put 'em
fair,
there.
but their defense is some Swiss cheese right now. It's so bad.
It is, but
It's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, they lost KCP, but outside of that, it's just like when you look at the Western Conference, it really comes down to seeding, like Carl said. Like they could get a nice path there, you know what I'm saying, and OKC could get upset first round. They find a way there, but I think if we're gonna put Cleveland up there, I would put Denver up there as well too, because although Cleveland's been the most healthiest team in the Eastern Conference, and like Carl said, with the whole fatigue situation, some of the games I lost, I started to see, like, it may be fatigue, but I'm starting to see, like, am I going to be able to rely on Darius Garland being that legit number 2? I mean, you could take him out in theory and have Hunter play alongside of, and so basically have Mitchell at the 1. And then your wings be Hunter and what's Max Strus with Mobley
to match up with Boston.
Match up with Boston in general. And then their backcourt is just little, bro. Like I know it's a small sample size, but for example, I saw the Clippers dog them. Zubac dog. He made Mobley and he made Allen look really small as well. Yeah. Not to say that Boston necessarily plays with a big like that with their back to the basket, but they're gonna get those switches, and you're gonna basically force Garland, whoever, to get out the game as well too. So I just feel like that may be a team where I'm still not quite sold on them.
Okay,
but that's it.
Yeah, that's fair. I was cool with the tiers too. Nothing jumped out at me that I disagreed with, honestly. So
you were cool with the Lakers placement?
Okay, I mean, I'm obviously gonna be a favoritism there. So, but I understand, because ultimately, I've seen where things can go wrong for the Lakers, just in the regular season games since getting Luka, and where teams can exploit them. So I can understand how they wouldn't make it all the way, or even just to the finals. But yeah, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
I mean, if it was, I guess, to go back to the tiers, if there was anything to just tweak, I just may put Boston and OKC just at the top by themselves. Yeah.
Okay. You don't think Cleveland's on that level?
I like what I'm seeing this year with somebody. It's like I don't know. They give me that Atlanta Hawks vibe, but with the superstar.
But I was gonna say like Donovan Mitchell, and granted he hasn't.
I already
been
know what he's
that
gonna
for
do. Yeah.
2 years, I feel like. But if Donovan Mitchell can be who he most of the time in his career has been in the playoffs, then that to me makes them, because their supporting cast is way better than what he ever had in Utah.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. And it's like I definitely I'm giving them the credit, but I guess I'm kind of selling them short or cheating them out of giving them the full credit, just because I know when it comes down to it, like you got to see Boston in 7 games.
Yeah,
that's a lot of bodies to put on Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, but we're gonna see. That's gonna be a great series regardless, though. I think if they play each other. So no, the tears segment was fire. I liked it,
and I do feel good about the storylines coming into the playoffs. I do feel like this is a more just like a fresher look, I think, on the NBA as far as like not really knowing who the winner is going to be coming into the playoffs, at least from my perspective. So I find that refreshing as a fan.
Yeah, that's real.
Okay. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think Boston gonna win the other thing.
Are they going back to back?
Yeah, dog. Yeah. I think OKC. I think it's gonna be like when Miami played OKC back in the day. Like OKC finds their way getting to the finals, beating everybody in no more than 6 games, and then they just meet Boston, who's experienced, and Boston just gonna beat them. Then
You
after
comparing Boston to Miami is blowing me, but I got you.
Yeah, just in the sense of like repeating. Well, that was Miami's first year winning the championship, but just like that veteran presence, they're so stacked. Like I just don't see anybody beating them in 7 games. Like I don't see it, dog.
I mean, OKC has the same way you talk about Boston has the clamps. OKC has the clamps.
OKC do got the clamps. I'll definitely say they got the clamps, but I just cannot trust, like we said, that number 2 dude to be there to say today. We're gonna see.
But can I trust the number 1 on Boston?
Damn.
I can trust Shea.
Yeah.
If it's a OKC Boston matchup, to me the most dependable player on the court is Shea.
Yeah,
Hands down.
absolutely.
So like you're already at an advantage there.
But that's what makes them the Boston Celtics. So well, first and foremost, I think Jason Tatum took another leap this year. He's been playing relatively very, very, very well. Definitely top 5 in MVP. Obviously, because of his team, he's never gonna get it. And then Jaylen Brown's right there. And then, like, outside of those number 2, what's good about that team is we expect them to always play at a high level, those 2 players. But they can play below their season averages and still smack a team up because they're so stacked. So I just don't see anyone beating them, dog. I don't know.
We're going to see.
Yeah.
We're almost there.
Yeah, we are.
So, yeah, I'm cool with OKC versus Boston, but if we just going for numbers ratings, I'm cool with the Lakers, Boston.
Yeah,
just seeing
that
rivalry. Yeah, just seeing what I saw a couple weeks ago, that Sunday before LeBron got hurt. Like, that would be exciting. That would be exciting for sure.
Yeah, it would be good for the league for sure. They're probably working on that shit right now.
Yeah.
So switching gears.